Hello, 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 my favorite groupies. So today we are going to make a toilet paper stuffed toy, and some of them I like to turn into dog toys with little squeakers in them. So I've got a bunch like that, and then I also have one here. This is the one that we're going to be doing today. This is the 8x10 version of him, so I don't have him with a squeaker, but you don't need to add a squeaker. And then we have the Survivor 2020 on the back, so you can put that on the back, or you can put it on the front here if you preferred, or you don't need one at all. So we have a little 4x4 version, we have a 4.5 by a 4.5 hoop version, we have the 6x10 version. I also have a 5x7 version, which I'm not done yet. And then today we are working on the beautiful 6x10 version. So I hope you're going to come along with me, and let's get it started. So to get started, the things that we're going to need for this project today are super simple. If you want to do an applique for the eyes, then you just need some piece of applique material. I'm using a felt. And then for the single piece of toilet paper part, you need a front and you will need a back. So you need 2 pieces of material for that. And then for the main body of toilet paper, you're also going to need 2 pieces. You need one for the front and one for the back. And then to get going, you need a piece of tearaway stabilizer. And first things first, we will go run the placement stitch. There we have the placement stitch. So once that is done, you take your piece of material, and in stuffy toys, the stretch does matter in the material for which way you want it to go. So, and also whichever way you want the nap of your material to be going. So we are just going to put this on and tape it in place and run it back to the machine, and we're going to be doing the tack down stitch to hold this in place. Now, if you don't want to write the words on this, then you can skip this step and put your second piece on and then just head right to the last step. But for this tutorial, we are going to be doing the wording for this. So this is the single toilet paper piece that we're doing in hoop 1 first. And let's go run the tack down and then the words. There we have it. The writing is done. So the next thing that we have to do is add the backing piece on here. And again, just make sure you have your nap going the way you want to. So you put it with the right sides together. So the first time we did it, this was the wrong side. This is the right side. Now we're putting them right sides together, like so. Pin it or tape it in place. Take it back to the machine, and now we are going to run the final stitches to hold them together. And there we have it. The hoop number 1 is now complete with the embroidery portion. And the next thing we have to do is take it out and cut out around there and straight across the top over here, that is open. So there we have it. The paper piece is done. So whichever side you want to be the front or the back is up to you. I like using this side to go on the front of the roller. Now the one other thing that I am going to do that you don't have to do, but I like to do it, is I like to take it to a regular sewing machine, and at this point I stitch just along the top here to seal it up. And I also do not stuff this piece. It's a piece of toilet paper, so I didn't think it needed to be. However, if you want to, you can. So just make sure that you've got the edges out nice, and then either glue it together, stick it together. It'll make it a lot easier if you seal that up. And then we will be back with hoop number 2. So here we are starting hoop number 2, and I just wanted to show you that little stitch that I went and did across the top here. It's there. You just see a little basting stitch basically just to close it up so that when I put it on it is easier for me. And then now the next thing is that we have to go do the main body part, and the first thing I did was I went to run the placement stitch. Didn't think you needed to see that. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our next piece of material, make sure the nap is going the way that you want it to go. All right. And again, I like using a stretch material. So that we have to put it down here and cover the placement stitch with the right side face up. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a few different steps here. So it's going to do the spiral for the toilet paper roll that's giving it a little detail, and then it's going to do the end roll. We're going to work through that, and it's an applique, so you run the placement stitch and then you put the material on it if you're going to be adding that. And so I'm going to just use a felt applique material for that. And then after you've put that on, you're going to run the cut line, then you're going to cut out the material on around the outside of the cut line. It'll be a tack down and then a satin stitch to hold that in place. And then after that, there's going to be an edge on the toilet paper. And after that, we're going to do the main face details. And you have the option of doing the applique eyes. So if you're using a white toilet paper, you probably don't need the applique for the eyes, but if you really wanted to do it, it is there for you. So let's go get started with this main body portion. Alright you guys, so I have finished that up at the machine, all the details, and you probably noticed at one point that I went back and I added this water-soluble topping to it. I like to do that for any of the soft plushy materials. So at this point, I like to just take that off. The next thing that we have to do is, I'm going to turn this the right way here. What we need to do is we need to add in the first paper piece. So you can put this, if you want the finished one with this face up, you can do it that way, which means you would put it face down like this. I am going to want this on the back, so when I'm seeing my little face here, that I don't see it. But you can have it either way. So what we need to do is on the very first tack down stitch to hold this in place, it's a little hard to see, but 2 little stitches came out like this. So you can see that there. And then this piece just goes in between those stitches, and I like to go over this outside roll line by just a little bit and make sure that it is in between those. So you can see this one here, I think, and this goes inside of it, and on this side this goes on the inside of it as well. So you just need to tape it in place and take it back to the machine and run the tack down line to hold that one in place. Alright, there we have that tack down that was done, and I just want to make sure that you guys notice that I do have tape over the ends. So if your machine gets caught up on this type of stuff, just put some Scotch tape over where the stitching will go, and that is going to stop your machine from pulling it out of place. All right, there we go. So the next thing that we have to do to finish this off is my nap is going this way, as you can see on the face. So I like to make sure that all the rest of the nap is going to go the right way. So just take your piece, make sure you've got your nap going the right way. This is the right side of the material. So you take the right side face down, right side face together, make sure this is inside. And you put that together and either pin it in place or tape it in place. And if you pin, make sure your pins are nowhere near the stitching lines. And then we're going to take it back to the machine, and it's going to do the final stitch to hold this all together, and it's going to leave an opening hole right here. All right, so we are now completed, and you can see right over here there is a turning hole. Just lift that up there, see a little closer. So the next thing that we have to do is we have to cut this out, take it out of the hoop. Now just make sure that before you cut all around, you leave a turning hole amount of material. And I like to tape that up out of the way. All right, there we have it. And now it is time to stuff them up. So Something else I like to do before I go ahead and stuff is so that I can see where the edges are. I like to put a basting stitch in there just to help me out. So there's my basting stitch. I just do that so that I can know when I'm doing my ladder stitch across where my good edge will be. All right, so the next thing that we have to do is just take some polyester stuffing, and this is what it looks like coming out of the bag. As you can see, it's kind of already torn up looking, but this is the kind of stuffing that you need to make stuffed animals. And to get a better look when it's stuffed, you just pull it apart, and the more you do this, the better stuffing you will get. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will be back right after. So it is now stuffed full. A lot more stuffing is in here than you would imagine. This is the 8x10 version, so it's going to use a lot of stuffing. And the next thing to do for these little toy patterns is to close up the hole. So the best way to do that is using a needle and thread to make it look neat, and to do what is called a ladder stitch. So you go in here, all right, for the ladder stitch, what you do, it is super simple stitch, and it's going to look messy at first, but that's okay, because when you're all done, it pulls up nice and neat. So with the ladder stitch, you start on one side, and your material has a fold in it, right? So you have this fold over. So between your material, here we go, I'm just going to stuff that back in. All right, so for the material, you put your needle in just in that fold area. So there's kind of like a tunnel that runs through there. So you make a small, you just go in one side, and then you actually come across to the opposite side and go through this tunnel. Like that. And as you can see, the thread's going from one side to the other. Don't pull it tight, you don't need to at this point. So then you go back and you do another one here on this side through the little tunnel. And then you're going to do that all the way across, which is why it's called a ladder. So then you come back to the other side. And as you can see at this point, it's just going back and forth. So you don't need to be pulling it tight every time, because when you get to the end over here, as long as you've used a good thread, so I'm using an upholstery kind of thread, then when you get to the end, you'll pull it and all of this will close. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and forth here and get that done, and I'll be right back. I am back here with my ladder stitch. As you can see, it goes back and forth. And you just need to make sure that when you're doing a ladder stitch, that you're not taking large amounts. You want to do kind of the same width that a normal stitch would be. That way, when you do pull it, it's going to close nicer and not be all lumpy bumpy. All right, so here is where we get to pull. Oh, as long as I've done it right. And then, as you can see, the whole thing closes up. You see that? little bit of stuffing coming out, and that's my other stitch. There we go. Get the end over there. All right. So you can see that once it's done, you get a really nice closing job stitch. If I just take out that basting stitch, you'll be able to see. See? There is the look of the ladder stitch. So if you're going to make little stuffies, I suggest that you just need to learn the ladder stitch. It will help you a lot. So I'm just going to finish closing them up there. But this is the toilet paper. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you really like this cute little guy. I think he's adorable. So you can turn him into a stuffed animal. You can turn him into a dog toy, which is what I have done to some of them. And I really hope that you're going to give it a shot. I hope the video helps. Thank you for watching. If you haven't yet, subscribe. And if you do like the video, give it a thumbs up. Have a wonderful day, guys.